It's happened again. It seems that Haier, maker of many home appliances, looked at the backlash that Chamberlain were getting a few weeks back and thought, hey, we could do with some of that free publicity, and decided to launch their own attack on the smart home community, but this time they took it to a whole new level by sending DMCA takedowns and threatening legal action against a member of the Home Assistant community. This all started a few days ago last week when Andre Bash received an email from Haier's Security and Governance Department requesting Andre to remove his work from GitHub. Andre is a developer who makes a Python library to integrate with Haier's API and pull data from it, and also makes a Home Assistant integration to use with Haier's smart appliances. And I say that Haier requested Andre to take down these repos, but really it was threatening and essentially pressuring him into taking them down, with them saying that they are in violation of their terms of service, they are being used in an unauthorized manner which is causing significant economic harm to the company, and demanding Andre to immediately cease and desist, quote, all illegal activities, and going on to say that they'll take all necessary legal action against Andre if they have to. Since this email was posted by Andre, there has been significant backlash against Haier, with many big news outlets covering the story, and I think I even saw Louis Rossmann had made a video about it, which I haven't seen just yet. So I guess if what they were going for was the approach of any publicity is good publicity, then mission accomplished. Andre then responded expressing disappointment and then tried to engage in conversation with them to find out some more information, like which terms of service it violates in their agreement, what's causing it to be unauthorized, and what the economic impact is to the company in terms of actual costs, because that is the main reason they gave in their initial email as to why they wanted it taken down, was that it was costing them a lot of money, which once again, like the Chamberlain situation, raises a few interesting points. Firstly, Haier is a huge maker of appliances around the world that employs 110,000 people at last count, and last financial year announced a record turnover and growth of 32.6 billion euros, and their last financial records from 2021 show a profit of 13.2 billion in Chinese currency, which is around 1.9 to 2 billion US dollars after taxes. So the argument of this causing significant economic impact to the company, a company on that scale, seems kind of weak to me. Yes, AWS fees can be high, but on the perspective of what we're talking about here, I don't think it's that high. There's also the flip side to think of the loss of revenue from people who now might not buy their products because there is no Home Assistant integration and because of the way they have handled this situation, something only Haier will ever know, but worth thinking about. The even stranger thing that happened a few days after their initial takedown request and the backlash that they received was that they then posted a blog post stating that they are keen to expand and open their ecosystem and IoT platform integration, which is an extremely strange response given that they just threatened an individual of the smart home community into taking down the exact thing that they claim to want to do. Now, it is worth mentioning at this point that this is specifically the Haier Europe branch that has issued this takedown to Andre, which is separate to the US entity. And in fact, the US company responded on Twitter, basically obliterating the European company with their response, saying that their platform is open and users are free to integrate with Home Assistant and that they won't prevent it. It's also important to mention that this library reverse engineers Haier's API. However, as the register mentions, EU court decisions have ruled this legal in the past. Finally, after several days of backlash, Gian Piero Marbello, who is the head of brand and IoT at Haier, followed up with an email back to Andre, going on to say that they are committed to opening their IoT infrastructure and that their H-On app is optimized to reduce the number of AWS calls and control costs, and that they have seen an increase in the number of users with the Home Assistant integration, and therefore the costs have increased too, kind of reiterating what was said in the first email. However, he then goes on to say that the initial email that was sent was just a standard protocol response, but that they are keen in collaborating with Andre to optimize the integration. This response, of course, definitely has nothing to do with the intense backlash and bad publicity that they received over the previous 5 days, and something that they were, of course, planning on doing the whole time had this not received mainstream attention. And one of the most senior people in the company would always personally reach out after such a standard response, and once again has nothing to do with the bad press. However, circling back to the reason given once again, which is the increased costs from making API calls, do you know how they could turn this around so that instead of facing increased costs from people using the Home Assistant integration, they actually decrease their bill for everyone, not just the Home Assistant users, but all of their customers? That's right, by adding a local API rather than a cloud service so that their customers can talk directly to their hardware either through the H-On app itself or via Home Assistant or via another platform, thus reducing your AWS bills while also making things faster, more reliable and sustainable for the future. Maybe you could ask your US counterparts if you could copy their homework a little bit, since a local API is something that they are already doing with their GE appliances. Just a thought. However, my absolute favorite thing about this whole situation is, of course, the response from the open source community, who I have seen so many amazing responses from, offering to help with legal stuff and fundraising and so on. My favorite has to be the effect that this has had on the repository, where now literally everyone is forking the repository to the point where there is now more than 2,000 forks or copies of the original repo, which is a 100 times increase over how many there were just a few weeks ago. So essentially, if they did succeed and Andre did take down the repository, just like the Hydra, another one would immediately pop up and take its place. Basically, all they've done in complaining about this is that they've caused it to get more attention than ever before from open source users, who will make sure that this never dies, at least not until they change or close the API, which is probably the realization Hire has come to now that all of these copies are out there, and maybe why they are saying now that they are open to working with the community. Finally, what can you do about this if you are an affected user? Well, the potential good thing is that since they have responded and said they are open to working on something, it does sound like they are now on the fence about this, and it's possible that users will get a good outcome in the end, unlike with Chamberlain, who flat out refused. So I would urge you to tweet at them, email them, raise support tickets, do whatever it is you can to get their attention, and let them know that you are a user and you are unhappy about this decision, because ultimately the more people that complain about this, the more likely it is that they will revert course. You can also go ahead and fork the repository and make sure that you have local copies of the code too. Realistically, with how many people have forked it already, it's probably never going to disappear from the internet now, which I love, but it certainly can't hurt. Finally, it could be that even if they do revert course, ultimately for some people the damage has been done and those people will never buy another Hire product again, which is completely understandable and one that I would personally be in favor for if there are no other options. Unless of course they do decide to implement a local API on their products going forward, that would be a very, very good outcome for all of this, and one that I would support. The thing about appliances is that they are typically have a very long lifespan in comparison to other electronics. Like, it wouldn't be uncommon to have a washing machine for 10 or 12 years, or even an oven for say 20 years. And this kind of response does not give me confidence that Hire will still support a cloud API for these products in 20 years' time. It's just not in their interest to do so. And a local API is the only way to ensure that these products are still operational long after Hire decides that you need to stop using them. It's a shame that we have to cover things like this, but I do feel it's very important for me to do whatever I can to shine a spotlight on these types of issues, especially when they affect a fellow Home Assistant community member. This type of behavior, especially the threatening type, is really not cool, and all it does is provide a stronger case for avoiding the cloud at all costs. That's about it. Thank you for watching. Please drop this video a like. Shout out Andre actually for making the integration and for not backing down easily. Show some support for Andre or to Andre down in the comments. And I will see you in the next, hopefully happier video.